the people on these podcasts are not high on these players.
Well, they might not be high on all of them, and obviously it's always a varying degree.
High on any of them.
Lonzo Ball is one that for some reason a lot of people are extremely high on. And again, I'm a Lakers fan. I enjoy watching Lonzo Ball play, but I haven't seen anything that stands out with him.
I mean, his defense kind of stands out as a point guard, his size. But again, the shooting at that position, the shooting just it kills it. It's like a Ricky Rubio, right?
Yeah.
Like a Ricky Rubio has the potential if he was a better player, if he was just a better shooter. And same thing with Lonzo. And I actually think Lonzo's shot is uglier than Ricky's ever was. So that's another bad thing.
Yeah, I definitely like Kuzma's game in terms of him even being a potential All-Star one day, but I don't think he'll ever be definitely not a superstar. I'm most high out of those players. I am pretty high on Brandon Ingram. I do enjoy his game. He's become a little arrogant this year. I don't know if I like that or not, but I guess that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm a little baffled, but I don't think that the Pelicans bite, and I don't think that they agree to this. But up to this point, I mean, everything. There's no way I thought that Anthony Davis was going to demand a trade. That comes out, and now this. I don't even know what to think anymore. The NBA just continues to shock me in every way possible. I guess the AD trade request was much easier to see coming. I just did not think it would be this early, and it makes perfect sense why he did it. He wants essentially, he wants an opportunity to win a championship this year, even if it's not a high one. He wants that opportunity, and this really helps the Pelicans out by him requesting a trade now.
So I'm just gonna make an argument now from the perspective of actually the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, I'm going to offer some advice to the owner. I believe her name is Mickey Loomis. Fire your current general manager, Dell Demps, and then hire Sam Hinkie. Because in my opinion, you are in the perfect position for a rebuild this summer. Obviously, this year, the one trade you have to make is you have to get rid of Julius Randle, just because his contract is expired.
Well, and Mirotic.
Is Mirotic expired?
Yeah.
I thought there was another year. Okay, so trade those two players. But in this summer, you're going to be able to make trades for Anthony Davis. You're going to be able to make trades for Drew Holiday. Now, if you could trade Drew Holiday now, go for it if the right offer is on the table. I don't believe it will be right now. But I do believe in the summer, some of the teams with cap space who could strike out will be more looking at Drew Holiday, who I argue is a pretty damn good player. Like, I like how he plays defense. I like his offensive game. I think he can help a team.
I'll give you a minute, and I'll give you mine while I give you a minute. I want to know what you think your ideal situation would be for Drew Holiday. What team you think would be...
Go back to the Sixers.
You think he'd be... Oh, okay. I see where you're going. Yeah, because he is quite the... He prefers actually to play shooting guard, but he's listed more often as a point guard. He really plays both positions.
But he can defend the point guard, which is something Ben Simmons can't do really well. Like, that's the one shot. Like, Ben Simmons can defend 2, 3, 4, sometimes a small ball 5, but he can't really protect. Like, when Covington was there, Covington would always be guarding the point guard. So, by adding Drew Holiday, you're adding that missing piece. Now, Sixers might be one of those teams that do strike out. So, you throw in in the summer, you throw in a Marco Fultz, obviously that Miami asset. You throw in, you'd have to throw in something else, Zaire Smith, whatever. And, maybe your draft pick, whoever you take this year. But there's options out there for Drew Holiday, right? Another team, I would argue that the Spurs could make a run for him. Now, the assets they have wouldn't be as good as the ones I just mentioned from Philadelphia.
What about Charlotte with Kemba?
What are the assets, though? Are you going to give up Malik Monk and Miles Bridges?
No, I think Miles Bridges and 2 first-round picks. And... Yeah, Miles Bridges. Well, I'd say
do what? To be in the number 6 team in the East?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, but Charlotte wouldn't. No,
I really like Miles Bridges, so I might have a little bit of.
Well, and that's the thing. Here. I think Charlotte would no doubt go. Well, if he becomes available, which I think he should, and we'll go back to this in a second. But yes, I think he'd be a great fit in Charlotte alongside Kemba Walker. But real quick, to go back to your point, yes, absolutely should trade Mirotic, absolutely should trade Randall. if you have to package them, I mean, you have Darius Miller there, who's been a solid rotational player. Get yourself 2 first-round picks, one for each player, even if they're not high picks. Mirotic would be real good, I think, on the Spurs, where they could probably package him alongside Moore, take on Gasol's contract. Bam! They either could give them the Spurs first-round pick or Toronto's first-round pick.
And one of the young guys?
Yeah, maybe a Podol. Yeah, involve a Podol. And another option for Randall. Randall has probably less options just because of the fact that he's only got his New Orleans only owns his non-bird rights, so basically any team he's on could only resign him for 120% of his salary, which his salary is not as high as he'll probably command. So any team he gets traded to will probably have to have cap space this upcoming summer. And I think Philly would be a good situation for him. If you could package Randall alongside Wesley Johnson and Darius Miller, now Philly gets their power forward and they get a couple of wing players.
I think his lack of shooting kind of will hurt the team because
and that's why I
struggled there.
Because
Ben Simmons can't shoot. Joel Embiid shoots it, but not very efficiently. I don't know if Randall's the best fit there, but I mean, there's obviously places for Randall. I mean, and I think the other thing is bottom out this year. That's why I would say if you can trade Drew Holiday this year, and he may have a little bit more value this year.
I'd probably wait till the summer with him though.
The only reason I would say is because he might be able to help a playoff team this year, right? So you get him for an extra year, compared to when you would have him from the start of next summer. Make some trades, bottom out this year, bottom out next year. I mean, I think a full blown rebuild. A la the 76ers, I think you're actually in a better position than the 76ers because you have these 4 players that I don't think the 76ers were even close to. I mean, the best player they traded was Drew Holiday, ironically.
Yeah, and I was actually, I'm going to pose you this question because both teams are kind of in the same position, and it's a really easy question to answer, but I'm going to pose it anyway. Who's in a better situation to rebuild now, Memphis or New Orleans?
New Orleans,
by far.
And they don't even have, and I really like Jaren Jackson. I like the asset that Memphis has, but I do think New Orleans, if done right, the rebuild could be pretty quick. I mean, you'll have some young stars, but it won't be as brutal. Yeah,
it depends on which way you want to go. Do you want to rebuild the LA Clippers way when they essentially rebuild on the fly? I think Boston did a similar thing there. Or do you rather go with a full-on rebuild? And
I will only argue, sorry for interrupting, but I will say that the LA Clippers were just a much better team than the Pelicans are now.
Yeah, and I mean, they also got very lucky with the players they received. I mean, who knew Montrezl Harrell would become who he is? Tobias Harris, I guess you could have seen coming, but that was a very nice pickup they made. Lou Williams, the pick that ended up being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Patrick Beverley. I mean, the players they received were awesome. We're all solid players and put them all together, and here you go. You got yourself out of a team. And not to even mention, I mean, even though the Clippers rebuild on the fly, they more than likely, if LeBron James comes back sometime soon, will not make the playoffs. Will unfortunately end up being a 9 seed unless LeBron James doesn't come back, or even, I guess, they might surprise us all and continue being in that playoff position. But I don't see them making it, which would be very unfortunate for them. But again, at least they've shown some signs of success. And that might actually, saying that, might actually be a reason why New Orleans should not rebuild on the fly. And I would make a case of most teams against rebuilding on the fly. I know both owners in Memphis and New Orleans, both don't feel like their franchises will be able to withstand a long-term rebuild. My argument to that is I'd rather come watch. As a fan, I'd rather be comfortable with my team being in a full-on rebuild than being mediocre. Especially, and I'll give a baseball reference to this. As a White Sox fan, I was so upset with them until they traded away some of their better players. They had a lot of real good players. I'm not sure if there's any baseball fans, but they had a couple of real great starting pitchers. But they were a mediocre team for a couple years. I was not happy with that. I hated that. And I was never as excited until they finally traded those players away and fully rebuilt. And I'm trying to think of a good basketball comparison. I mean, Philly is the most obvious one, but I wasn't a Philly fan, so I can't really compare here. But I hate the mediocrity.
Maybe this was like one on a fly, but you can look at the year that the Spurs pretty much tanked to get Tim Duncan. I know it's like a one-year example. It wasn't obviously a full rebuild, but
And it wasn't a tank because that was just an unfortunate circumstance.
Well, I read some stuff that he could have came back and stuff like that. They didn't plan on winning that year, and then they did tank and not play a lot of their better players.
Okay.
But anyway, again, I there's a lot going on here because there's a talk about how New Orleans probably doesn't deserve an NBA franchise. So in my opinion, that is why this might sound pretty contrary, but since the fact that you might be moving to Seattle within 4 or 5 years or Vegas or whatever, there's a lot of talk about that, them being sold. In my opinion, that's why you do the full tank. You get some young guys that people are going to get excited about. And then you can maybe raise the value of the team than like you're talking about a mediocre team. I mean, this team had Anthony Davis and, you were almost never able to sell out. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you don't belong in New Orleans, and the best way to get better value for your team if you try to sell it and move it would be just start fresh, start anew. Now, if you don't want to hire Sam Hinkie because he comes with the garbage, that's fine. Danny are available. We will do this full rebuild for you. So if you want to hire us, please do hire us.
Yes, absolutely. But I guess to your point here is that if they do move, I don't think the owners, like, I don't know who New Orleans owner is right now. I don't know the name. I don't think he'll be the one that owns the team once they move. She?
Yeah, the owner died, so it's the wife who's in charge.
I'm sorry, okay. Well, my condolences. But, yeah, so I don't think she'll be the one in charge of the move. Therefore,
she'll be the seller, right? Because she already owns the New Orleans Saints, so she's obviously staying in New Orleans.
You're right, yes. Yes, I did hear about that. Okay. But I think up until that point, she wants to make as much money as possible, and theoretically, I guess having a Drew Holiday there as compared to a couple of future first-round picks makes more sense. So
maybe it does because they had Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis, and they were still not coming close to selling out. Now with the loss of Anthony Davis, it's gonna be even worse. Now maybe you make an argument here that's why you go get Alonzo Ball because Alonzo Ball can. The one thing he can do.
He doesn't want to be there. I mean, all those reports that he does not want to be there.
But what's he going to do? He's not going to play. He's not going to play out his rookie contract.
He will, but he'd be another player who would probably just accept this qualifying offer and go somewhere else.
Yeah, but that's 3 or 4 years.
That's true.
If you're trying to sell.
Yeah, and again, it disappoints me. And I guess the older we get, the older, at least for me, I pay attention to the business side of the sport, and really that's what draws me away from not only the NBA, but from other professional sports leagues, is how much business really goes into all this. Because, again, theoretically, it makes absolute sense for New Orleans to trade off Randall, trade off Mirotic, and not quick after that, trade off Drew Holiday. And similar for Memphis. It makes perfect sense for them to get rid of Marc Gasol for anything they can now. Get rid of J. Michael Green, get rid of Garrett Temple, even if they only net you second-round picks. And by this summer, get rid of Mike Conley. But I highly doubt that happens. I could see them trading Marc Gasol. I do not see them trading Mike Conley. And similar in New Orleans, obviously they will trade Anthony Davis. I could see them trading one of Mirotic and Julius Randle. I could see them being stubborn with the second just so they could still sell some tickets this year. And I could see them being extremely stubborn with Drew Holiday. And that really disappoints me because the full-on rebuild is probably the most efficient way to go if you wanna drop out of mediocrity after a couple years.
Mm-hmm. I think we're in agreement there. So that will about end it, our podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a special podcast. So we are going to hopefully record one this Sunday. As always, please follow us on our Instagram, NBA Trade Zone. You could send us any question at nbatradezone@gmail.com. And please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you get your podcasts, and let your friends know.
Real quick, I did want to add in that I was real close to releasing my 30-team article about the ideal roster each team could build for the 2019-20 season. I was going to actually release it today, but now I have to make some updates because of this trade that came out and really killed everything I had prepared. Well, not everything, but at least I had killed about 4 or 5 teams. I had some fun things prepared. But keep an eye open for that. That still will be posted, hopefully by tomorrow or Saturday. just something fun. It will be posted on our website, which is NBATradeZone.com. We've been a lot more active with